Flow state, I can't wait to see straight. I can't wait to change fate. I can't wait to flee hate. Keeping all my good traits, letting all the mistakes go. I beat the foe, I take control. Spread good vibes is all I'm told. Never sold, there's always more. I can grow and I'll explore all the past that I can map out in my head. It's like a tour. Know the world is evil, people strip you right down to the core. But you know that you can be way better than you were before. For your mother, for your father, for your sister or your toddler, you can be the one that makes them feel the best when they're around you. So don't be a lazy coward, just listen for an hour. Sean and Tyler about to show you just how you can hold the power.
Welcome back to Flow State with Tyler and Sean the Flock. In this week's episode, we cover topics such as Bryan Callen's stand-up career, motivation, good versus bad, and expansion versus contraction, listening to the pain as your guide, mastery by Robert Greene, Sean's relationship with his mother, being a big brother, little brother relationship. Guys, if you like this podcast, please consider subscribing, rate, and review. Please enjoy.
Who's Miss Patamas?
Smith Thomas, it's the AD.
The AD?
AD of Atlantic Community High School. We're doing so the way it works is if you're doing an out-of-county game, you have to get a special permission slip and then fill out another form to get them out.
So it's all about getting your kids on a bus to this school?
Yeah, unlike, I mean, that's, times are changing, so they don't like kids to be abducted or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah. Who makes the schedule for the kids? Like, who books the games? Is that you, or is that just
Me.
the school?
It's all me.
No. Oh, yeah? You book the games?
I have to book the games. And then I tell the AD when the games are, and they set up their side of it. And I line the fields. I mean, I got to do a lot of shit.
That's crazy. How's the season been going so far?
We haven't won a game.
How do you feel the team's progressing?
They're getting better. It's just, they really haven't shown it in games. And their commitment isn't there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my battle is like, do I want to be with a team that doesn't care, or cares, or that doesn't even care? It's just that their idea of caring is not in line with the way I would care.
Yeah.
No.
Now, do you struggle with the idea of creating a bigger buy-in, or is it just you can lead or is it the idea that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't get him to drink?
I think it's a bit of both. But, like, obviously everything's a learning experience. And if I'm not getting anything out of it, I think it's, in terms of like growth or knowledge, then I put it down. But there's no right or wrong answer, right? Like, you can stay in a relationship forever thinking that you're learning and learning and learning, but at some point you're just like, you know what, this just doesn't resonate with me. This isn't the frequency that I want to resonate at.
Yeah. And this is year 2 for you, or year 1? No, I mean year 3.
Year 3.
Year 3. Have you seen year over year like progression, or has it just been pretty much steady?
This is like the start of the program, because prior to this, it was like kids who had already done lacrosse and they just kind of got together at Atlantic and, they made it work. So in some ways it was more successful, but like, that's because kids actually played lacrosse. Like, a lot of the kids, I think 70% of the team never played lacrosse before.
Wow. And so it's juniors, seniors, sophomores, or is it younger?
It was high school.
High school, yeah.
They're all together, 9 through 12. There's no varsity
right.
JV. It's all varsity.
Oh, wow. So you have kids who are like 14, 15 with like 17, 18-year-olds?
Yeah, just like anything else.
Yeah.
Lacrosse down here isn't big enough where there's a ton of JV teams. Like, realistically, we should just be a JV lacrosse team, but we have a bunch of seniors. I don't know. This is what it is, because the level of lacrosse isn't that great anyway, so it's like, whatever.
Right. Are there any teams that you play where you're like, oh, the level's relatively high, or is it everyone just kind of like, meh?
Maybe 1 or 2 teams are like good, but like, put it this way, like those good teams when like Yorktown High School comes down, they beat them like 17-0.
Right. Yeah.
It's not even close.
Wow. Crazies.
Yeah. I mean, one of the best teams in South Florida, you know, they wouldn't make it in the state tournament in like New York.
Section.
I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just totally different.
Now, if you compare football, my God, man, you couldn't want to carry the conversation while I wash my hands.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting for you to get back. I was total. Fail.
Dead airspace. How
That's
dare
okay.
you, Bryan Callen? By the way, did you watch Complicated Apes?
No, but I saw it live. Where can you watch it? It's
all like you have to either rent it or buy it. No, like Amazon
streaming
or no Hulu, no Amazon Prime, no Netflix.
Yeah. So the fact that I watched it live and the clips that he's been posting so far is everything I've seen live. I was like, do I really need to rent or buy it?
I'm a big Bryan Callen fan. You know me. I think he's a silly goose.
Right.
I stopped it halfway through.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
It was so unfunny.
No.
It just missed, man.
It didn't do it for you.
It's spoiled comedy for me.
Whoa.
Afterward, I was like, I'm going to watch some George Carlin. George Carlin wasn't funny after this.
Huh. Do you think just like stand up after you watch it live and then you watch it on TV, it's just not the same? Or is it your expectations versus reality? Or
well, I watched Bryan
live. Yeah.
I saw Bryan live.
And it was great.
He was funny as hell.
Yeah.
It doesn't come off well. Well, you know what?
TV
You're
screen.
also part of the theater when you're in person, so you can get away with like talking to you for a little bit and whatever. When you throw on the TV, you're like, I'm here to laugh. Give me jokes.
Right.
I think he would be better at like. Remember when Robert Wool did that like history of American history? It was like a 45-minute thing on HBO.
Yeah.
Like he'd be better at something like that. I don't think stand-up specials are suited for him and his comedy.
Yeah.
I don't think that's his strong suit.
Yeah. Well, a big piece of him is like he's very like has that like charm in a way that he's self-deprecating, but he's also smart, but he also moves his body in a way. So when live, it all kind of combines.
Yeah, that did not come off well at all in the stand-up special.
Yeah.
His little movements and nuances and his little side jokes here and there. There was so little laughter. The acoustics of the place were terrible. His mannerisms and his physical comedy did not come off right. It seemed like theater, like a one-man show. It didn't seem like a comedy special.
Yeah, man. Well, that's a bummer.
So
I'll still support him next time he comes in and see him live because I laughed my balls off when he came live.
Well, the funny thing is now that I saw him on Theo last week too. And I was like, he's just coming off as pretentious.
Huh.
You know, like I kind of see the forest between the trees a little bit. I'm like, like I think there's a reason why he hasn't gotten a Netflix special or an Amazon special. Like none of them picked it up.
Right.
There's a reason for that. And there's also a reason why he's 52 and still hasn't had a comedy special on like a major deal. You know? Sometimes you're like, oh, well, you know what? It just takes time. Other times you're like, yo, man, like maybe it's him. Maybe when it comes to making his specials, they're just not good.
Maybe. It's damn good at giving birthday wishes.
And that's the thing, is like, how can you be so good at this, yet this doesn't work for you? I just think it's just like he's being casted wrong. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever seen he made a movie called When the 40-Year-Old Virgin Met
Sarah Marshall.
Knocks up Sarah Marshall.
I didn't see it.
Anyway, there's a trailer for it. It's just so bad.
Right.
Like, that's what this was. It's just so forced. He wants you to like it so bad. Like, he's smiling so that you smile, and it just comes off as disingenuous.
Yeah.
Inauthentic, yes.
Yeah. It's like we were saying before a few weeks ago, like when you can feel when the audience can pick up on when you're trying to be funny rather than just being authentic, they can't resonate with you. But I think a big part of it is just like stand-up doesn't really translate as well through a screen, especially when you start to see it live. It just doesn't sometimes translate onto a screen.
So do you think we pulled back the veil too much?
Maybe. But you know what I did enjoy was, did you see Bumping Mics on Netflix?
Bumping Mics?
Yeah. It's Jeff Ross and what's his name? The guy who had the show. Yes, I wanted to say David Attenborough.
I've seen David Tell stand up live at the Comedy Cellar. I haven't seen this special though.
Yeah, so the whole idea is it's David Tell and I can't think of that. Yeah, Ross. What's his first name? Jim Ross? I don't know.
Jim Ross is from WWE.
Yes, you're right. My brain can't work right now. Jeff Ross. God damn it. Anyway, so they rip on each other, then they rip on people in the audience. They have special guests who come on, like what's his name? Who doesn't age from Clueless. He makes an appearance. Gilbert Gottfried makes an appearance. Amy Schumer makes an appearance. Michael Che makes an appearance. Paul Rudd. I wanted to say Rob Lowe because he's the other guy who doesn't age.
Doesn't age either.
But yeah, no, that actually translated well, and was a lot of times when I sit down to watch a Netflix stand up, like I make it like 10 minutes in, and I'm like I get bored. But this actually had some, I don't know, just the way it was shot, just the way it was presented was in a unique way that the jokes came through just as funny on my, like I was laughing out loud.
So do you think that our knowledge of stand-up is affecting our ability to, it's almost like when you find out how the meal is made, the food doesn't taste quite the same?
Yeah, I think you also pick up on the way that they shoot it to try and make it more like, to like keep your eyes focused in a way, and like there's all these like cuts, and like so that kind of distracts you in a way. So I think that's part of it too, is that the production of it sometimes gets in the way. And if you're, go ahead.
When I rewatched. I've seen a bunch of it before, but I rewatched Kevin Hart's special.
Okay.
It's his biggest one with the no nickel having bitch.
Yeah,
that's so funny. Like he's so. I think what happens is we know that it's a performance. So sometimes if you know who that person is, and then you see them perform, you're like, that's not really them.
Right.
And I think the better comedians can just let go, or the distance between who they are and how they perform, it starts to mesh.
Right. Like, so okay. So I was going to say, the better you are, the less difference. Like Dave Chappelle on stage would be the same Dave Chappelle in a podcast.
That's exactly the example I gave. Or Sebastian Maniscalco is pretty much the same person.
He's so ridiculous. Did you see his
performance is just amazing. It's just like his performance is him, like just a little over the top.
Amplified.
Amped up. Yes.
Yeah. I love him describing the guy who comes on the treadmill. He's got his keys. He's got his chapstick. He puts out his iPad, and he's got his Camelback sipping through a straw.
He's like, what is he doing? You know, like, again, it's just him personified. Jerry Seinfeld, he'll interview. He's the same person as his comedy.
Yeah, him in Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee is the same Jerry Seinfeld on stage.
Yep.
But I think what happens is like they find the authentic, they find the ability to be themselves on stage, and it's being yourself on stage, but also being fucking funny and coming up with like ridiculously great premises that ring true for you.
Yeah.
And that's fucking hard.
And like it goes back to the whole idea of like Ja Rule. Right? For those of you who do not know who Ja Rule is, he was a very popular 90s rapper, sin-90s. And it turned out that he really wasn't a thug. He was talking the game, but he actually wasn't about the game. Like it's like he went to Cranbrook. It's a private school type shit. You know what I mean? So Ja Rule wasn't about the game, and he talked about being a thug and like all that stuff, and people started calling him out on him. That's what Wankster is.
Right. And that's when his
That's
career.
when 50 Cent comes up and goes, "Oh yeah, you think you're a thug? Well, I took, what is it, 8 shots?
I don't know how many shots to the body.
Spit him out." Who's a legit gangster. Like when you talk about gangster rap and you look at Tupac, like Tupac actually, he had to become that because he was an art school guy.
Yeah.
But
I think all of these guys have a lot of truth behind what they were saying. It just depends on when they are rapping about did something really happen, or did you come up with it? But I think,
or did it happen to someone else?
Or did it happen to someone else? Yeah,
and you're just rapping about it, and again, that comes off as inauthentic. So when people when you see that is actually occurring, then you start to look at things. Wait a second, did I just want to believe this, or do I think it's actually true?
Right. Yeah, and that's what happens. Is like the further these guys blow up, the farther they get. Like 50 Cent, like his every album since his first album has gotten increasingly worse.
Yeah.
Because he's gotten farther and farther away from what gave him that ability to make that first album.
Yeah. Some people really need to be to prove something. Like that is what their purpose in doing that was. Like, I need to prove this, or I need to get out of this position. But here's the funny thing. We talk about how change actually happens and how change occurs. So if a person gets new circumstances and doesn't actually have to change, then once that circumstance, they get the circumstance they want, they don't change, they can't actually grow.
Right.
Right. So say 50 Cent has been this, he's been just trying to prove himself. And instead of him actually changing and letting go of the idea that he has to prove himself, he gets the album. But now he doesn't have to prove himself anymore. Because so now he's trying to come from a place of I'm trying to prove myself, but everybody's like, "Yo, man, you're a millionaire." Like, that doesn't mean anything to me anymore.
Right.
Whereas Jay-Z is like, "Yo, I don't have to prove shit. I'm the best rapper in the world." And and I was the best rapper in the world when I came out with my first album, and when I came out with the Black album, and when I came out with the Blueprint, I was always the best rapper in the world.
Yeah, he was the one who came into my mind. He's the only one who's had real longevity in a rap career. I can't think of really anyone else. Like Eminem, I started to think about, but he had a couple like real big flops along the way. But that also had to do with him getting addicted to painkillers. But obviously people didn't like his most recent album, so he had to release another album on top of that. And then he got this whole beef with Machine Gun Kelly that was kind of like meh. And then he did that whole cipher in the thing, and it's like, I want Eminem to be the old Eminem.
We even do Patrick, but Dan Patrick.
The 4 board and your 4 Taurus. That's probably my favorite Chris D'Elia bit. Him just going up there.
Patrick. Can't fantastic.
The 4 boards and the 4 Taurus. Boards and boards.
That's the best. But obviously, and then he did the whole thing with Trump. So, everybody's, I think, is trying to find their identity. And I think a lot of people try to find their identity through doing stuff. And that's fine. And as long as people are kind of taking a moment and take a step back, that resonates with me. And if you're not, that's cool too. But I'm just saying, in terms of my own personal growth and the people who I want to be surrounded by, I think it's important that after you do something and you get a result, you take a second to say, okay, was this what I wanted? Was this what I expected? Did I have expectations? Is this actually in line with me? Is this where I want to be? Is this what I want to grow into?
Yeah. One thing I was talking about today with one of my clients is this idea of, if you accept that you've achieved something, will that take away the motivation to keep pushing?
Yes.
So for instance,
you have to have that story. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So for instance, let's say you want your career to be a certain way, and you have grown, you've made it to, this stage in a company. Let's say you're the COO, but you still can't admit that makes you happy, because if you admit that makes you happy, that will take away the motivation to keep pushing.
Yeah.
Same thing with I did a post with Dr. Cox on Scrubs, and he talks about, how do I keep going to the gym? I look at myself in the mirror and I hate myself, because that's going to allow I'll never be happy with my body, which will always get me coming back to the gym. And it's like, okay, how do we reprogram that in a way that, people can use that to serve them in a positive, quote unquote positive light, but what's really going on underneath the hood? Is there really, can we say that's a positive if they're continuing to push themselves to get into the gym? Can they push themselves to get them to a certain point in their career? Is that a positive if they're continuing to talk that way, or is it just it's like short-term success for long-term like fall? I don't know.
Well, again, I think we have to take away the idea that there's anything good or bad. It's just matters of what aligns with you in that given moment. And if things, and I think that's empowering, because if you think that things are good and bad, then it's like, okay, there's a right or a wrong choice here.
Right. As I was saying that, I kept on saying, I'm saying good and bad a lot. Like it really isn't good or bad. It's just being aware of the choices you're making. And if you can, is that serving you?
Yeah, and again, the reason why I think it's empowering to take away good or bad is because now you have the power for you to decide what's good and bad.
Right.
Does it align or does it not align? I think that's more probably appropriate. So if you have a person who's living on the street and who is addicted to crack, and you go, "Yo, you're infinite," they're gonna be like, "Okay." Whereas if you go, "Yo, man, you want to come over to the corner here and get a cup of coffee with me?" It's like, okay, cool. Like, all right, cool. I'll pay you $10 if you don't have crack for the next 2 hours. All right, cool. Like, it's external motivation. Is that bad? Is that good? Well, I'll tell you what. Like, is this moving him in a direction where he can actually align with himself and maybe progress forward and maybe get closer to their truth? Yeah, probably. So it's I guess that's why it's important to have multiple tools in your tool belt, and that's what Lauren says, my girlfriend. And it's true. Like, some people need motivation sometimes. Some people need motivation for a long time. For me in particular, like I've gotten to the point in my life where I've done motivation so many times. I'm like, yo, motivation is obsolete for me most of the time. Sometimes, like, seeing something motivating, I go, oh wow, cool. Sometimes now I'm like, oh, I don't need to be motivated now. And now I identify myself with the fact that I'm not a person who can be motivated, that I have to be transformed. So, nothing is good or bad. And I have to keep reminding myself that, because, again, if I keep ascribing things to good or bad, that actually puts me in a place of lack and of I have to avoid things like Russell Brand had a expert, so to speak, on eating disorders, and the idea of, like, chocolate is bad, right? It's like, well, who ascribes that these foods are good or bad for you? Right. And then again, it creates that, if this is bad for me, I have to avoid it. And if you're avoiding an inanimate object, are you empowered? You're disempowered, right?
Right. Well, I think it kind of boils down to is good or bad it's a contraction.
Yes.
So that isn't going to open you up. So if you continue to have the mindset of, is this serving me? Is this not serving me? And then just being like open.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, let me be open. And then, even if it's something that you're like has triggered you in the past and has had brought you like negative feedback in the past, maybe at this point it could strike a totally different tune. So maybe you've always hated, I don't know, Oprah. You're like, Oprah's, she's giving away cars and she's crazy and wacky, but then if you're constantly saying that you're an Oprah hater, and are you ever going to have a moment where maybe she does have something that resonates with you? So not being like, the less you can stick to a solid identity and keeping the idea that you're fluid, you're open, and treating things that come along in your path that way, I think that will be a much more empowering thing, rather than hopping on a team or clinging to an identity or getting in with the tribe or whatever, which is what we all tend to do.
Yeah, like, and to give a tangible example is like when people are like, hey, have you ever tried eating this way? They're like, oh yeah, I tried that before. So, okay, well, how'd it go? Like, oh, it went terribly. I'm like, okay, would you be willing to try it again? Like, no, it doesn't work. I'm like, well, the way you were doing it doesn't work. Like, you didn't have this new awareness that you have now of whatever that you might have needed to learn by doing it the first time.
Yeah.
Right? Because if like things like eating well, right? Like that, I think objectively improves people's lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
exercising. It's like, oh, I exercised for 6 weeks. I didn't lose any weight. Okay, cool. So, how'd that make you feel? Like, what did you actually try? Yada, yada, yada. And they're like, well, it was unsuccessful. I'm like, well, maybe it wasn't unsuccessful. Maybe the way you're framing it and maybe what you see success as makes it so that it wasn't successful. It's like, and now that you have this level of awareness, would you be willing to do it again based upon what you now know?
Right. Yeah. Because the person who was perceiving it at that point might have been totally wrapped up in a story and couldn't even hear or be present to any of the progress they were making.
Yeah, you're looking over here for the results, where over on the other side, that's where the results really were. But because you were so fixated here, you weren't able to actually receive what you actually got. So if all you were focusing on was the scale in terms of losing weight, and then 6 weeks later the scale didn't change, you're like, oh man, I fucking failed. And then you're like, oh, by the way, did you have to buy a new wardrobe? You mentioned. Oh yeah, I bought a new wardrobe. Why? Oh, none of my clothes fit. But you came in with the expectation that you go, oh wait, you were supposed to lose weight, but you weren't open to receiving what the universe was actually trying to give you.
Right.
So all along you were doing the right thing, but you were looking in the wrong place because you had an expectation of what the results might be.
Yeah. I just had a thought and it completely ran out of my mind. Just completely lost it.
Love that.
Love that. Oh, that's what it was. Speaking of love, perfect.
There you go.
If you, boom, brought me right back to it. So, two beliefs that I think could serve everyone is, well, the ability, well, two things is the ability to love yourself and the ability to kind of trust in the universe. Do you think there's any circumstances where those two things wouldn't serve somebody?
Yes.
I guess there's always going to be.
When they are attached to the idea that they have to do something a certain way.
Okay.
So if you say, I have to be one with the universe, if I have to love myself, and you are basically saying, if it creates that line where you go like, this is bad if you do this.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you're like, go ahead and hate yourself as much as you want, go right ahead.
Uh-huh.
Invite it. I hate myself as much as possible.
Yeah.
Eventually that's going to go, and then it's going to create space for something else to come in.
Right.
And then again, objectively stepping back and going like, okay, which of these did I really expand with? Was it me beating the shit out of myself, or was it me loving myself?
Right.
So sometimes that person, like, and again, it's funny because you say this because I think I resonate with this, is I have to love myself. I have to love myself. I have to love myself. You know what? I fucking hate myself. I fucking hate all the things that I do. Yada, yada. And that allows all of those things to come up, leave, and create space for me to expand.
Right.
So if you only feed things, one way, we kind of create a yin without no yang.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just think about it. Like, if we didn't hate ourselves for something, or we didn't find guilt in doing something, how would we ever learn?
Can't.
Right? So like, imagine you hurt one of your friends and you were like, oh, I'm just going to love myself all the time. Now, obviously, like, that's a little bit psychopathic and,
right.
What is it? Not psychopathic, but, someone who has no emotion.
Right. Oh God.
Not schizophrenic, but
I can't think of it. My brain's not working today. Thank you.
Sociopath. So someone who's a sociopath, like, someone opens a door for them and then just keep walking. And they're like, excuse me. They're like, I'm sorry. What was the problem? They're like, you didn't say thank you. Like, I need to. And them not like doing that as like an egoic thing, but like, I don't need to do anything for anybody.
Right.
Like, it's a bit sociopathic, right?
Right.
Or
right.
or at least maybe there's some areas of the brain that have lack of development, like in Asperger's. Like did you watch Free Solo?
I did. Sure did.
So Alex Honnold, is that
Yeah.
how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, that's Honnold. Yeah.
He's probably Asperger's. So like
Yeah.
when he does something to his girlfriend and she's like, "Do you really love me?" or like, "Did you like that I did this?" He's like, "No, absolutely not." And does it with no emotion to it and no
Right.
guilt. So
Right.
there's no way that he's going to be able to feel and develop if he's unable to feel guilt.
Right, because he can't have that self-reflection because he hasn't had that muscle of like empathy.
Yeah.
That like the empathy triggers the self-reflection and the ability
Exactly.
to change.
So that's why you have to cherish the pain.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
your guy.
yeah. So it's pretty interesting. Temple Grandin in the book Mastery talks about very similar situation. So she was trying to change the cattle industry in terms of like the humanity and how they treat the cattle. But when she was giving talks or anything like that, because she has autism, she wouldn't be able to connect with the audiences, and they would feel her coming off as robotic, and they wouldn't resonate with her message. But once she kind of got that feedback, she then actually learned how to cultivate that empathy and speak with that energy and connect with people. And she was able to actually learn that skill. So it's a learnable trait.
Yeah, and I think the thing with people like with Asperger's in particular and autism is they don't pick up on visual cues through faces. That's one of the things. So like if someone looks sad, they don't pick that up. If someone sounds like this, they may not pick that up. So they're not going to do it through visual cues. But I think I agree with you when it's like there's probably other ways of going about that to teach people what empathy is, to teach people what sympathy is, and develop those areas of compassion. Because if you don't have that for others, there's no way you're going to have it for yourself, and vice versa. So if you
Right.
fuck up, you're not going to forgive yourself because you're like, "Oh, I should have known that."
Yeah. Well, I guess that kind of goes into, if you can't love yourself, how are you supposed to love anyone else too?
Yeah.
And like we were going into the previous week is, I kind of think we had made that point, is like that self-love, that compassion will then enable you to then give that to others. And then, but also that idea of if you like self-love and then like being self-absorbed or feeling guilt of being self-absorbed or selfish. I think it like kind of speaks to that whole idea of like filling your cup, making sure to fill your cup, because if you're not filling your cup, then you're giving from resentment as opposed to giving from the overflow. And like, that's something that really, resonates with me, and something that I pick up on my own relationship with my girlfriend Dominique is, I can tell when she hasn't given herself the opportunity to have her me time and fill her own cup. And I know that she's hanging out because she feels an obligation to hang out. It's not it, because she feels an obligation, I would actually prefer her to actually take the time, do her own thing. If she wants to sit down and watch one of her shows or read or whatever the hell she wants to do that like gives her fulfillment or fills her cup, then go and do that. And then once she's done that, then we can come and hang out. And I think that's where a lot of relationships suffer, is that they're sacrificing for their partner and they're not filling their own cup first.
Yeah. And again, like just the theme of this entire episode is like, it's not good, it's not bad,
right?
but like, because there's some people who naturally have a tolerance to like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I like things, and who the fuck am I to say that that's not like? Trust me. Look at any like as an example. Look at women from the Middle East. If you told them, oh, you should be doing this because that's going to be a more satisfying life, you should live this, you should be independent, you should do this. And for generation after generation after generation, women within that culture have had these roles. And then you say, no, you should be doing this. They're going to look at you like, no, that's not how it works.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's like the
there
US
is no
like,
good or bad there. It's just, okay,
yeah.
Does this resonate with you? Can you give this enough room to actually see if this is for you?
Right. Right. Well, I think a lot of times what happens is we get so excited about something and how it's changed us that we then want to impart that on other people.
Yes.
Just think about like any of these things that people love to rip on, be it vegans or paleo or CrossFit. It's that people do them and they see such a profound positive impact at their own life that they want to like get out there and indoctrinate in a way and be like, oh, this is so awesome, blah, blah, blah. But, what it really, how you can do that is just show up in a more authentic way. And then if people get curious, then let them know what they're doing. And that way, that's how you could either tell somebody about it or have them try it out themselves. But if you're trying to get out there and indoctrinate, then it's just not going to work. People need to get curious about it. And I think that's a big quote that I live by is like, be the lighthouse. So, don't try to tell people, show people by just showing up and being authentic and letting that light shine.
Yeah. And not everybody's going to want to shine, and that's okay too. Everybody's at a different point in their journey. Right. And if you try to push it on people, they are going to push very hard back. Yeah. And I've had that happen plenty of time. Because I think, in essence, no one wants to be told what to do. Right. Ever.
Well, everyone has a need for autonomy. It's like a basic human need.
It's like telling a kid not to cross the street. They're like, I'm going to cross the street. And then when they get hit by a car, they're like, see, I told you.
Yeah. Yeah. Is your challenge coming to a close this week?
So something's interesting is that, like, again, and I kind of purposely did this to see what would happen, but to fill space, obviously we're always kind of, what do we need to say next? This last weekend, I went and saw Kyle Cease down in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, cool. That's right.
And, this is the third time I've seen her in person. I brought Lauren along with me, and she enjoyed it. And I think we both got something out of it. And he does his little thing for like 20, 30 minutes of like, he comes up on stage. He's like, I have no idea what I'm going to say. And I love that. And the more space I give and the more pocket, the more space I give and the more okay I am with that, the more things flow through me naturally. And I just get in the pocket. And now I am just here and I just can create. And how boring would it be if I was just going to go over a shtick? And how limited would I be if I was just going over the notes that I had behind stage? But he's like, you know how I got ready for this? I went and had an awesome day. I had fun. I enjoyed myself. I connected. How much better would it be to do that than sitting backstage and worrying about what I was going to say? So he does that whole thing for about 20, 30 minutes. And then he's like, listen, guys, like all those worries, all those thoughts, all those emotions that you have, just like close your eyes and kind of talk to or tell it to this thing beating in your chest right now. Yeah. And the whole crowd is kind of doing that. And I see along the way, there was this guy sitting in the front row. He's a, late 60s gentleman with slick back hair, bit overweight, from Boca, one of these classic self-Floridians who they know it all, but they really, don't know it all and have no self-awareness. And then in the middle of this like quiet moment, he yells out, "It's all bullshit." It's like, that's what it says. We're all love. We're all consciousness. It's just blah, blah, blah. And, like, just like we said, it's like, this is unsolicited, right? So why is he really yelling this out? And what is your thought?
Probably wants attention.
Probably wants attention. And when you are unsure about things and want validation about what you think, what's the number one thing you do?
Complain,
but tell people about it.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Right? To get affirmation. Affirmation bias.
Yeah. You want others to confirm what you think.
Yes.
So what did he say?
So Kyle like talked to him and like, hey, so like, meanwhile, this is an auditorium of 600 people, and they kind of talk and this every time that Kyle asked him a question, he just went into like this whole kind of pre-rehearsed like soapbox thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like this guy was coming to make a statement on like people who were self-help. He's going to try to disprove self-help in a way.
No, the other way.
Oh.
The reason why he yelled at bullshit, he's like, it's all bullshit because like he was saying that we are love, we are all these things, yada, yada, yada. And he was saying that the thought in his mind or the things that come up that are counter to that are all bullshit. So to clarify, but it's like why would he need to stand up and say that? Is kind of what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. So he was agreeing with what Kyle was saying.
Yes,
he
but
was
he
like,
needed to. Why get up and need to be heard about it? And yes, you're right, because he needs validation. He needs affirmation. And his wife is sitting next to him, and she's shaking her head like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, this is nonstop what I have to deal with. And Kyle gets him on stage, and he's just trying to basically make him aware that, hey, like your need to tell everybody about that we're one is actually restricting you from being one with yourself, because he's false identifying with the idea that he needs to do that.
Yeah.
Kind of like we were talking about, like if you really believe something, then people will come to you. You don't need to go yell at people that you're one with the universe. Really, all you're saying is, I'm insecure. I'm really not sure about things. I need to yell this at you.
Kind of reminds me like in school when the teacher would say something and then you had a student just say exactly what the teacher said as a way to like, and that, I don't know why that always pissed me off.
Yeah,
it's like so like
it's the most obvious thing in the world. And they say, well, isn't that like the Indian Valley in blah blah blah? And they're like, and some teachers are like, oh yes, very good, and kind of like stoke their ego a little bit.
No,
Others, it would be yeah, that's the most obvious thing in the world. We covered that last week. Shut up.
or no, it would be like, yeah. So the answer to this problem is 4 + 4, and then somebody raises their hands and like, so the answer to this problem is 4 + 4. It's like, yeah, they just said that. You're literally repeating back what they just said. Why do you're adding nothing here?
Yes, it's just lack of self-awareness. Or like, hey, if it was 4 + 4 instead of 4 + 5, it would still be 8, right? They're like, yes, okay, just wanted to make sure. Like that triggers me, because it's like, why are you using me for your own personal validation?
Right, exactly.
Fuck you. If you want to go feel good about yourself, actually do something worthwhile.
But then that's our own shit. Why do we have to react that way?
I know. I mean, like, it's more for me is like, how do I react? Like, what do I do with that?
Right.
I ask. Sometimes I'll ask, I'm like, what do you want from me? Like, what do you mean? I'm just asking a question. But I'm like, I get it, but why?
Right.
I want to know the answer. So like, it's hard because they don't know that they don't know.
Yeah.
And now I feel like a dick when I don't answer. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, what do you mean? I asked you a question. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to answer that question.
I don't need to feed into your bullshit.
I don't need to feel. I don't need. It pisses me off because I'm like, people are using me to feed their insecurities. I'm like, I'm not here for that, man. That's bullshit.
Mm.
And I just don't know how to respond. But I guess in turn, the answer is go within and see what triggers you about insecurity. Like, what makes you feel?
Yeah, like why is that striking such a chord with you?
Yeah.
Is it because they're like, dude, you're fucking wasting my time. Like, I'm trying to learn here and you're fucking trying to validate yourself while I'm trying to learn. And like, now you're taking away from my need that I'm enjoying and I want to continue to enjoy, and you're infringing on that need. Is it something different? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe on some level it's like my needs aren't met and you're trying to take something from me and I don't even give myself that.
Yeah.
You're trying to take something from me that I don't even give to myself, so fuck you, you're not getting it.
Right. It's like, yeah, I could, I like validation. I like having that, but I'm going to earn it. You're not even earning it. You're just saying something stupid.
Yes. It's kind of like also in a way, like, you know how, like, if someone were to attack you, I would fucking maul them. I get heated.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I'll go to the end of the earth to fucking, for retribution. Yet, I will beat the fuck out of you. Like, this is my punching bag.
Yeah. Dare you.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's always been something is like, that I feel that I've always kind of treated you as is, a little bit of that. And, it's interesting to see the shift now of like where you're at, and interesting to see how like an interaction with you now would be. I mean, obviously we do these little calls, but like interacting with you on a regular basis. Like last time I saw you in person was probably San Francisco last year, right? Or
Yeah.
I saw you. We went to dinner in June when I was up there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think it was much more of a like friend than it is older brother, younger brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, at that point too, that I noticed like at that point, I was actually a little bit worried for you.
Uh huh.
I was like, he's not in a good place right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his like fuse has gotten significantly shorter.
This was in June.
This is in June.
Are you referring to the fact that like I snapped at mommy?
Yes, multiple times, and I'm like, are those snap worthy instances? And it might have just been like you were spending you had already spent how many couple days with them, so
Yeah.
maybe they were just getting on your nerves. But I was like, man, he's just not like.
But I
I don't
also
know.
get triggered. I also get triggered when she's taking drugs,
Right.
which she was clearly on.
Mm. So it's just like, as opposed to me where I can just like turn a blind eye in a way and
Yeah, I
just
mean, like,
not.
what do you feel when she's doing drugs?
I feel like I turn a blind eye and just try to not, and just turn a blind eye in a way. It's like not my place. Like is me like stepping in, serving anyone?
Yeah.
Am I in
Well,
the position?
sorry. Go ahead.
And I think almost like being the youngest, like not feeling like that's my role to step into, but maybe it is. I don't know. It was
Well,
something I always like relied on, Graham and Evan for, or even you at that point,
yeah.
and like.
I think you definitely have a defined role of like the youngest son, loving mom, and mom kind of expects that of you. But like for
Right.
me, I have this I mean, in thinking about it now, I have this expectation of what mom should be, and when she doesn't fulfill that role, obviously I blow up.
Right.
Instead of going, wait a second, is this situation something that I want to be in? Oh, no? Then I remove myself from this situation. Rather than trying to beat my head against the wall and go, I want this to happen. And like, I want this cow to be a cat, and it's just never going to happen. Like, this is where I resonate with.
Right.
And if I keep trying to force this to happen, that's why I'm angry.
Right. Well, I think also a big thing for us to like dig deeper, a big issue that we have with that is our mom, who doesn't really resonate with. I mean, she's such an anomaly in a way, or such a what's the word I'm looking for?
Character.
When you're a character, where you like you're two different things at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
She's a dichotomy.
She's a dichotomy where she is, completely obsessed with surface values, but in the same essence, I truly believe like she has like a deep love for you as well.
I agree.
That you wouldn't think would be the case if somebody's completely self-obsessive and lives on the surface and is completely consumed by what others think, and you wouldn't think that person would be capable of like a deep love, but I do feel it. And in the same essence, like she would maybe like be critical or like judge the way that we kind of believe or think and label it as bullshit and inauthentic, but in the same essence she can do Shavasana and completely connect to that type of spiritual. And she's done 12 steps and she's connected with that. So how can this same person believe two completely contradicting things at the same time? And I think a lot of times maybe she kind of could play the critic for both of us in like just viewing things as a scam or viewing things as like, what is somebody trying to pull over on you, or viewing things in a way that someone's just out to get money from you, or someone's trying to pull one over on you in a way.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to everything we've learned from the people that we've learned. So, like, obviously, mom probably came from an upbringing where being loving and authentic and compassionate probably was not received very well. And surface value things were received well. And being a certain way was received well.
Yeah.
Versus, being, a very superficial person. Like, that probably was received much easier. Like, oh, you're a good girl. I love you now. So a lot of conditional love, and that's handed down. So, I have so much anger and resentment, in ways because she represents the things that I don't want to be.
Right. Well, that's what have viewed our parents in a way as like guideposts in what not to do. I think I was very self-aware from a very early age in that, like, my parents act in a certain way that I don't want to be.
Yeah. But the thing is like, do we have that ability? Do we have that autonomy? Because you are who you are in some ways. So it's like, maybe by resisting that, I'm resisting those spots within myself, which creates that idea of darkness versus light.
Yeah. I think
so it's like, until I actually accept those areas within me, then those are going to be triggered outwardly through mom.
Yeah. Well, like, I think for me, it's just like putting off like drinking, and I've never smoked a cigarette, or just like the way I interact with others and like being afraid of confrontation. I think a lot of that stems from just seeing the way that, mommy and daddy interacted with one another. It's just like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I go the complete other end of the spectrum? So like, I don't have to fall into that way of living, because I know that's just not what I want. I know that's wrong. Well, there is no good or bad, but for me, like, witnessing it, I'm like, I don't want any part of that.
Yeah. And I think that's a fair assessment. It's like, eventually you go, listen, I love everyone, but I'm going to be surrounded with what I choose as much as I can.
Yeah. But it's pretty interesting, right? That, Graham and Evan, I would say, just by how they value their cars, they're much more like into that material, like they value material possessions a lot more than, let's say, you and I.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think they had a completely different upbringing than we did.
It probably got different feelings because, you obviously were influenced a lot by me. I don't want to say that in an egotistical way, but I think... Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. It'd be impossible not just to say that Evan was influenced by Graham.
Yeah, I think I agree with that too. So like your older brother, you kind of like follow in their footsteps a bit. So for me, I was never really driven by money. I was driven by success in sports and my body and all that kind of shit. So you see that, and that's kind of what influenced you. It's the same reason why Evan and Graham are in the same field and you and I are in the same field.
Yeah, exactly. And what was I going to say before? Crap.
And I feel guilt with that, of like the responsibility for you. You know what I mean? I mean, again, not solicited. It's not like there's a reason why I should feel guilty. It's just like I feel like I'm responsible for some of the things that you do. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And for better or worse, it's like, but I think I have to let go of that and realize like you
Right.
have your choice to do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, you didn't choose to have me. You didn't choose to be my older brother, right?
Yeah.
You didn't choose to have a younger brother.
Yeah.
That was something that was,
But I think for me is like, I would like, if I could go back, I would have directed you in a much different path. I would have directed you in where you wanted to go, not like, this is right, this is what you should do. This is what I do, and you should, like, you know what I mean? Like, do whatever you love.
right,
But
right.
obviously you don't know that. Like, you're fucking
Sure.
15 years old, and you're like, oh, I wrestle, I play football, we should play football. We're both doing this, da da da. And obviously, what you say doesn't mean shit anyway, because it's about what they see,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
what they pick up on. So you probably picked up on all that shit, and then you follow along with that. But it's like, I guess I have to forgive myself for not knowing at the time, and also having the realization that, like, at this point, I'm not responsible for you anymore, because you have the ability to change your own life.
Exactly. And like, your programming was going off the programming you learned.
Yeah.
And if you learn it, you can unlearn it. And I think that's a big part of what we're doing, is like, we're going in and we're choosing what programming serves us, and we're reprogramming what doesn't serve us.
Yeah.
And it's a process, and you're undoing years and years of shitty, whatever you want to call it. But like, we've always come back to it as like, the first step is just becoming aware. But I think a big point for you and I is that we had Nora and Billy.
Yeah.
And I don't think that can be like underestimated in terms of the impact that had on us, to have people who were so unconditionally, like, you felt like just an overwhelming amount of love, like the most love you could ever feel.
Yeah.
And also to see them have a completely healthy, loving relationship with one another, like, that was, I think that's what like allowed us to become the people that we became. And like, I think that's why we're both, we're both strong. We're both kind of dichotomies. Like, we're hard but soft, and we're aggressive but also very sensitive. Like, we carry both.
I think a good description of us is like pit bulls.
Yeah.
Like, pit bulls can be the most loving, compassionate, loyal, beautiful animals, and then they could also rip your fucking face off.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not golden retrievers. We're like, oh, I'll do whatever you want, boss, dude.
Yeah.
And never bite the hand that feeds. Yet we're also not like, I guess an extreme thing would be like a Rottweiler or an attack dog.
Right. So I think that's what puts us in the position now. If we didn't experience both of those ways, I don't think we would be able to step into what we become now. But we wouldn't also have the perspective of how to also empathize with people who grew up in similar conditions.
Agreed. So it's we got a lot. We got a lot of perspectives, a lot of different types of feelings and emotions wrapped into our experience, and it is who we are today. And like, I don't want to say right now that like, oh, I'm so grateful for it and this is exactly where I want to be. It's highs and lows, but there's no other way of thinking about it.
Right.
Like, it is what it is. And I guess, for me, it's just loving it and giving it space. And if there are parts of me that don't want to love it, that's okay too.
Yeah. It's not good or bad.
Perfect. Guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing, rate, and review. Tyler, if we need to get a hold of you, how can we get a hold of you?
You can go to tflofitness.com or see me on Instagram, Tyler Flock. Big announcement. Fit Style Fridays will be making a return starting. Well, we're gonna be doing a little repost this Friday. So if you missed one in the past, it'll be on this Friday, and then a new Fit Style Friday will be dropping next week.
Holy smokes! And if you need to get a hold of me, Sean My name is Sean LaFlock. You give me at Flock Fitness on Instagram, on YouTube, and my email address is Sean@CrossFitDartyBeach.com for any kind of programming, fitness, accountability stuff, that as well. And we're going to be doing more and more new content that I post on a regular basis. I just put out a video today. I'm going to be putting out more videos and upping my social media and content game. So really cool stuff about motivation, about philosophies and training, et cetera, et cetera. So really exciting stuff, in this new year. Tyler, I appreciate your time, buddy.
Yeah.
I love you. I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.